My sister begged for money to rent a place and then I overheard her talking to friends, in which she called me a gullible idiot who pays for her lifestyle. So I stopped supporting her financially and confronted our parents. My name is Brittany, and at 28, I'd managed to build what most would consider a pretty good life for myself. After years of hard work, I had landed a position at one of the most prestigious companies in the city. The salary was excellent, and I had finally achieved one of my biggest dreams, buying my own apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was mine, paid for with my own money, and that made it perfect. I remember that day clearly. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when my younger sister Ashley showed up at my door unannounced. At 23, she still lived with our parents, which had never seemed to bother her before. She'd always been content letting them support her while she figured out her life, as she put it. But this time, something was different. As soon as I let her in, I noticed her eyes darting around my apartment with an intensity I'd never seen before. She wandered from room to room, touching things, examining everything as if she was seeing it all for the first time, even though she'd been here countless times before. "Your place is so nice, Britt," she said, running her hand along my kitchen counter. "You're so lucky." I couldn't help but laugh. "Lucky? Ashley, I worked my ass off for this place. You know that." She turned to face me, and I was surprised to see tears welling up in her eyes. "I can't take it anymore," she burst out. "Living with mom and dad, it's suffocating me. They're suppressing all my aspirations for independence." I nearly choked on my coffee. This was rich coming from Ashley, who had never shown the slightest interest in being independent before. "Since when?" I asked, trying to keep the skepticism out of my voice. "Last time we talked, you were pretty happy having mom do your laundry and dad paying your phone bill." "That's exactly the problem." She pulled out her phone and started quoting something. "According to Dr. Martinez's book on adult child-parent relationships, this is classic codependency. If I don't break free from the parental umbilical cord now, I'll be stuck there forever, just withering away." I set my coffee down and looked at her hard. "Ashley, what exactly are you asking me?" She took a deep breath, and there it was, the real reason for her visit. "I need your help, Britt. I want to move out, but I need money for the first 3 months of rent. I'll find a job right away and then I'll be completely self-sufficient. Just like you." Maybe it was the way she said, "just like you," that got me. Or maybe I was just tired of worrying about her never growing up. Whatever it was, I heard myself saying, "Okay, I'll help you." The squeal she let out probably could have been heard 3 floors down. She threw her arms around me, nearly knocking me over. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're the best sister ever, Britt. You won't regret this, I promise." A week after our conversation, Ashley burst into my apartment waving her phone in the air like she'd just won the lottery. "Britt, I found the perfect places. You have to see these." I was in the middle of making dinner, but she practically dragged me to my couch. As she started scrolling through the listings, my eyes nearly popped out of my head. The first apartment she showed me was in Riverside Towers, one of the most expensive complexes in the city. "Look at this view," she gushed. "And it has a rooftop pool, gym, and even a concierge." "Ashley," I said slowly, "this place is $2,800 a month, but it comes with parking." She swiped to the next listing. "Okay, this one's a bit cheaper, only $2,500. But look at the marble countertops." I put my hand over her phone. "Stop. These places are completely out of the question." I pulled up my laptop and showed her a listing I'd found earlier. "Here, this is more realistic. It's a 1-bedroom in a good neighborhood, comes furnished with basic appliances, and the rent is reasonable." Ashley wrinkled her nose as she looked at the photos. "But it's so basic." "It's clean, safe, and perfectly nice for a first apartment," I said firmly. "In fact, it's nicer than my first place was. Plus, it's within walking distance of several businesses where you could apply for jobs." She slumped back on my couch, clearly disappointed. "I guess." "Look," I said, trying to be patient. "This is exactly the kind of place you need while you're getting established. Once you have a steady job and your own income, you can upgrade if you want." After what felt like an hour of convincing, she finally agreed to look at my suggestion. The next day, we met with the realtor, a cheerful woman named Linda who walked us through the apartment. It was exactly as advertised, modest but pleasant, with decent furniture and working appliances. Ashley kept making faces when she thought I wasn't looking, but I ignored her. "We'll take it," I told Linda, pulling out my checkbook. I wrote checks for both the security deposit and 3 months' rent, while Ashley signed the lease agreement. As she scribbled her signature, I felt a mix of pride and anxiety. This was really happening. Over the next few weeks, I called Ashley regularly to check on her job search. Her answers became increasingly evasive. During our last call, I finally lost my patience. "Ashley, I'm not going to pay your rent indefinitely. You need to find work." "Don't worry about it," she said dismissively, and before I could respond, she hung up on me. I stared at my phone in disbelief, a sinking feeling in my stomach that my sister's version of independence might be very different from mine. 3 months flew by faster than I expected. I was knee-deep in a project at work when my phone buzzed. Ashley's name flashed across the screen, and for a moment, I hoped she was calling with good news about a job. I couldn't have been more wrong. "Hey, Britt," she said, her voice casual as if she was about to comment on the weather. "Just reminding you that the rent's due by 15th. You'll need to transfer money for the next 3 months." I nearly dropped my coffee. "Ashley," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We had an agreement. You were supposed to get a job and start paying your own rent. That was the whole point of this. Becoming independent, remember?" "Oh, come on," she interrupted, not even letting me finish. "I haven't found the right position yet, but I'm totally on my way to it. These things take time, you know?" "No, I don't know," I snapped. "You've had 3 months to find something. Anything. You wanted independence so badly, remember? Well, independent people pay their own bills." She hung up with such force I could practically feel it through the phone. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding, but feeling proud that I'd finally stood my ground. That feeling lasted exactly 15 minutes. My phone rang again. This time it was Mom. My stomach dropped before I even answered. "Brittany Marie Thompson." Mom's voice came through like a tornado. "How dare you refuse to help your sister?" She called me crying. "Mom, I've already paid for 3 months of rent. The whole point was for her to become independent." "Independent?" She cut me off. "She's your sister. Family helps family. That's what we do. You have a good job, a good salary. You can afford to help her. But Mom, do you want her to end up homeless? Is that what you want? To see your sister out on the street?" The guilt trip was coming on strong, and I felt my resolve weakening. Mom kept going, her voice a mix of disappointment and accusation that she'd perfected over the years. The worst part was, I knew exactly what was happening. I knew I was being manipulated. But knowing didn't make it any easier to resist. "Fine," I said finally, my voice tight. "I'll pay for 3 more months. But that's it. This is the last time." "That's my girl," Mom said, her voice immediately warming. "I knew you'd do the right thing." After hanging up, I transferred the money and sent Ashley a text. "Rent paid for 3 more months. This is absolutely the last time." "I mean it." Her response came seconds later. A single emoji, a smiling face with a halo. The innocence of the emoji felt like a slap in the face, and I knew right then that I'd made another mistake. But what could I do? She was my sister, and Mom was right about one thing: I could afford it. A week after that, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I decided to check Ashley's Instagram. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and what I saw made my blood pressure spike. There she was posing in my apartment. The one I was paying for like some kind of lifestyle influencer. Photo after photo showed her lounging on the furniture, standing by the window with the perfect morning light and arranged artfully on the kitchen counter with a cup of coffee. The captions were even worse. "Living my best authentic life. Being true to yourself is the greatest gift. Sometimes you have to choose your own path. Trust the journey." I scrolled through weeks of posts, my jaw clenching tighter with each swipe. Not a single mention of job hunting. Not one word about looking for work or becoming self-sufficient. Just endless selfies and pseudo-philosophical quotes about following your dreams. I couldn't take it anymore. I opened our messenger chat and typed, "When are you actually going to start looking for work?" The response came so fast, I wondered if she'd been waiting for me to ask. A photo appeared in our chat, an official-looking email with a company letterhead. It was an invitation to a job interview, complete with date, time and location. My heart lifted. Finally, maybe she was actually getting serious about. My phone rang. It was Ashley. "Did you see it?" She squealed before I could even say hello. "I got an interview. But Britt, I need your help with something really important." "Here we go." "What?" "Well, I need to look professional for the interview, right? First impressions are everything. I need some nice clothes and a trip to the salon, to really well them. I was thinking maybe you could help me out. Like, $800 should cover everything." $800? I nearly choked. "Absolutely not. Please, Britt, this could be my big break." Her voice turned desperate. "I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I get the job." "You want me to get the job, don't you?" "Ashley, the receptionist is the first person who sees you, and they always report back to the hiring manager. I read about it online. I need to look perfect. Please, please, please." I rubbed my temples. "Ashley. Please, Britt. Pretty please? I promise this is the last thing I'll ever ask for. 10 minutes of this. 10 solid minutes of begging, promising, and emotional manipulation." I knew what she was doing. I knew it, and yet, "Fine," I said through gritted teeth, pulling up my banking app. "But this is absolutely the last time." "You're the best sister ever," she squealed. "I love you so much." I transferred the money, hating myself a little as I did it. But maybe, just maybe, this would be the thing that finally got her on track. A few days later, I called Ashley during my lunch break. "Hey, how did the interview go?" I asked as soon as she picked up. There was a pause on the other end. "What interview?" My stomach dropped. "The interview you needed the $800 for? The one you showed me the invitation for?" "Oh, that." She gave a little laugh that made my skin crawl. "Yeah. About that. I went to check out the company and honestly, Britt, it just wasn't for me. The position was super boring. Just data entry and filing, totally monotonous stuff. I'd die of boredom in a job like that. I need something more creative, you know?" The rage that had been building over months finally boiled over. "You're not in a position to be picky," I shouted into the phone. "You haven't worked a day in your life. And I'm not going to support you forever while you wait for your dream job to fall into your lap." "Oh," she cut me off quickly. "Sorry, Britt, I've got to go. Waiting for a super important call. Talk later." The line went dead before I could say another word. I sat at my desk shaking with anger, when something occurred to me. I pulled up Instagram and went to her profile. There, posted just hours ago, was my sister, not in any professional interview outfit, but in a sparkling party dress that probably cost every cent of the money I'd given her. The caption read, "Life is a party, dress like it." I tried calling her back immediately, but my calls went straight to voicemail. I tried texting, no response. By the time I left work that evening, I'd worked myself into such a state that instead of heading home, I drove straight to her apartment. I could hear the bass thumping from halfway down the block. As I approached her building, the music got louder and louder. By the time I reached her floor, it was obvious she was having a full-blown party on a Wednesday night, no less. I still had the spare key from when I'd helped her move in. My hand shook as I fitted it into the lock. The door opened silently. The music so loud it drowned out any sound I might have made. The scene that greeted me was like something out of a college movie. There had to be at least 20 people crammed into the small apartment. Drinks everywhere, music blaring, people dancing. And there, in the middle of it all, was my sister wearing that expensive dress I'd paid for, dancing like she didn't have a care in the world. I was about to storm across the room and confront Ashley when suddenly the music cut off. In the momentary silence, I heard my sister's voice loud and clear. "You guys want to know the best part?" Ashley was saying, her words slightly slurred. "My sister, my rich, successful sister Brittany, she pays for all of this." She gestured grandly around the apartment, nearly spilling her drink. My feet felt frozen to the floor as I listened. "She actually gave me $800 for interview clothes." Ashley made air quotes with her fingers. "Can you believe how stupid she is? I mean, look at this dress. Much better than some boring office suit, right?" More laughter. I recognized some of the faces in the crowd. People I'd met before. People who knew me. "And get this," Ashley continued, clearly enjoying her audience. "She actually thinks I'm going to get a job. Like, why would I need to work when I have a cash cow for a sister?" She took another sip of her drink. "All I have to do is cry a little about wanting to be independent, and she throws money at me." The group around her erupted in laughter and cheers. "You're so lucky," one girl called out. "My sister would never." "That's because your sister isn't a gullible idiot," Ashley replied with a smirk. "I swear, Brittany actually believes all that crap about me wanting to." Someone in the crowd finally noticed me standing there. The person's face went pale, and they grabbed their friend's arm, pointing in my direction. Like a wave, the realization spread through the room. The laughter died, replaced by uncomfortable coughs and whispers. Ashley, still grinning from her performance, followed their gazes. When she saw me, the smile vanished from her face so fast it was almost comical. The color drained from her cheeks and her drink slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. I walked to the center of the room, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor in the sudden silence. Every eye was on me as I stopped in the middle of what had become a makeshift dance floor. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when I spoke. "So this is what you really think of me," I said, looking directly at my sister. "This is how you treat someone who's tried to help you. You lie to me, manipulate me, steal from me, and then laugh about it with your friends. You think I'm a fool?" The silence in the room was deafening. Some people were already quietly gathering their things, trying to slip out unnoticed. Then Ashley's shock wore off, and a calculated look crossed her face. One I'd seen before, but never properly recognized. "What are you going to do about it?" she asked, her voice taking on that familiar whining tone, but this time with an edge of triumph. "You'll keep supporting me anyway. You know why? Because if you don't, I'll just tell Mom and Dad, and you know whose side they'll take. They always do. They'll make your life hell until you help your poor little sister again." I didn't say another word. I turned and walked out of the apartment, my head held high. As I reached the elevator, I heard the music start up again behind me. The bass thumping through the walls as if nothing had happened. The weeks that followed were quiet. My sister didn't call and surprisingly neither did my parents. The silence should have been peaceful, but instead it felt like the calm before a storm. I knew it was only a matter of time before the other shoe dropped. 3 months of silence ended with a ping from my phone. A message from Ashley popped up on my screen. Rent's due for the next quarter. Need money for food and clothes too. Send it ASAP. The audacity was breathtaking. After everything that had happened, she was still treating me like her personal ATM. I typed back a simple response. No, I'm not paying anything else for you. Ever. My phone immediately started buzzing with incoming calls from Ashley. I watched it ring out again and again, feeling a strange sense of calm as I ignored each attempt. Then Mom's name flashed across my screen. Brittany, she said as soon as I picked up, her voice stern. We need to have a serious conversation. Come to the house tomorrow after work. The next evening, I pulled into my parents' driveway with a knot in my stomach. As soon as I walked through the door, I knew I'd walked into an ambush. Ashley was sitting on the couch, wearing no makeup, her hair pulled back messily, looking every bit the part of the suffering victim. Mom and Dad sat on either side of her like guards. I barely had time to close the door before Dad started in on me. How could you do this to your sister? He demanded. She's about to be evicted because of you. Do you have any idea what you're putting her through? Mom jumped in. She's barely eating. She's so stressed. I looked at Ashley, who sniffled dramatically on cue. The Oscar-worthy performance made my blood boil. Are you kidding me? I shot back. I paid her rent for 6 months. I gave her money for clothes, for food, and you know what she did with it? She threw parties. Bought party dresses, and then had the nerve to brag to her friends about what a fool I was for giving her money. Oh, please. Mom waved her hand dismissively. She was just joking around with her friends. You're being too sensitive. Joking? I could hardly believe what I was hearing. She literally called me a cash cow and bragged about manipulating me. You're the older sister, Dad cut in his voice hard. It's your responsibility to help her. We raised you better than this. My responsibility? I repeated incredulously. My responsibility was to help her become independent, not bankroll her permanent vacation. Ashley sat there through it all, a small satisfied smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She thought she had me cornered. She thought I would cave just like every other time. I looked at my family, my mother's disapproving frown, my father's stern glare, my sister's smug expression, and something inside me snapped. No, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I'm done. I'm not giving her another cent. She's an adult. If she wants to live independently, she can pay her own bills like the rest of us. I was heading for the door. Behind me, I could hear Dad yelling about family responsibility, Mom crying about how she'd raised such a selfish daughter, and Ashley's theatrical sobs. I got in my car and drove home, my phone buzzing constantly with calls and messages. I turned it off without looking at any of them. For the first time in months, I felt truly free. Free from the manipulation, free from the guilt, free from the endless demands. A few weeks after our showdown, my cousin Jackie called to check on me. She'd heard about the fight and wanted to give me some updates. Your parents are paying Ashley's rent now, she told me. They had to take money out of their retirement fund to cover it. She still hasn't even looked for a job. 2 months of relative peace followed. Then one evening, my phone lit up with Mom's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Brittany? Her voice was trembling. We have a problem. The story came out in bits and pieces, punctuated by my mother's barely suppressed sobs. The apartment owner had finally had enough of the neighbors' complaints about Ashley's constant parties. He'd shown up unannounced during one of her latest bash with the police in tow. But that's not the worst part, Mom's voice cracked, when they did an inventory of the apartment. Brittany, Ashley had sold some of the furniture and appliances. The owner's furniture. She'd been selling things bit by bit to pay for her parties. I sank into my couch stunned. She what? She's being charged with theft. Mom was openly crying now, but the owner said if we reimburse him for everything she sold, he won't press charges. Please, Brittany, we need your help. Your father and I don't have enough after covering her rent. No, I said firmly. I warned all of you what would happen if you kept enabling her. This is the result of how you raised her. Making excuses for everything she does, never letting her face consequences. How can you be so heartless? Mom's voice rose. She made some mistakes, but she's family. Think about what this would do to her future. Think about what it would do to this family. I am thinking about her future, I replied. Maybe facing real consequences is exactly what she needs. Please, Brittany. She tried one last time, her voice thick with tears. If you ever loved your sister. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. A week later, Jackie called again. Thought you'd want to know, she said. Your parents cashed out what was left of their retirement fund to pay off the apartment owner. They had to pay for all the missing furniture, plus a huge penalty to break the lease early. Ashley's been kicked out, obviously. Where is she now? Back in your parents' house. Still not working. Still posting on Instagram about living her truth or whatever. Jackie paused. Your parents are telling everyone you abandoned the family in their time of need. That was 6 months ago. Ashley still lives with our parents, still doesn't work, and still posts inspirational quotes about weathering life storms. Mom and Dad had to postpone their retirement, but they haven't learned their lesson. They're still supporting her, still making excuses. As for me, I haven't spoken to any of them since that last phone call. Sometimes I see posts from extended family members about holiday gatherings I'm not invited to anymore. I hear through Jackie about the stories they tell, painting me as the villainous older sister who abandoned her family. But here's the thing. Sometimes being the bad guy means you're the only one brave enough to stop the madness. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their actions. And sometimes family isn't about enabling bad behavior. It's about having the courage to say no when everyone else is saying yes.